We're pleased that you could join us on this conversation titled "The Federal Work Opportunity Tax Credit, Aligning Job Seekers with Businesses to Encourage Employment Opportunities." Let's get started. Today you're going to hear from representatives from the Virginia Employment Commission in person and Claris Solutions virtually. So Claris Solutions is a new SkillSource partner who can assist employers to capture tax credits and to reduce their federal tax liability. So that will be the focus of our conversation today. The SkillSource Group Incorporated and the Northern Virginia Workforce Board engaged Claris Solutions to help our local workforce area and region to jumpstart our region's utilization by employers for the Federal Work Opportunity Tax Credit. So I just real quickly like a show of hands in the room here. How many people have taken advantage of this tax credit so far? Okay, few? Good. So in late 2015, Congress and the President agreed on the legislation that extended the life of the workforce tax credit through 2019. That means that all of us in this room, but especially employers, have an extended opportunity to utilize and hopefully maximize our efforts to identify job seekers who are eligible for the WOTC and to put them in gainful employment, and for employers to gain the benefit of putting those WOTC eligible job seekers to work. So a win-win on both sides. So let me get started by introducing our panel members. Next to me here is Priscilla Neff, who is the Workforce Opportunity Tax Credit Coordinator for the state of Virginia with the Virginia Employment Commission. And Ms. Neff's career spans more than 30 years in the private sector in various leadership roles, and she's been with the Virginia Employment Commission for 5 years, right? So delighted to have her with us here in the room. And then in virtual cyberspace, we have Philip Wentworth, who is the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Claris Solutions. He's an entrepreneur and business owner and has been responsible for maximizing business systems for companies for the last 20 years. Since joining Claris, he's been introducing businesses from across the United States to the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program. Also out in the virtual world, we have Teresina Maxwell, who leads Operation and Customer Experience at Claris Solutions. Her experience with WOTC stems from 8 years of working at Ernst & Young in the tax credit area and with the incentive teams. And she's also a licensed attorney with her law degree from the Ohio State University. I'd like to start set the stage for this conversation today by having Philip and Teresina, through a webinar, provide us a brief overview of the Work Opportunity Tax Credit and how employers can capture these tax credits and how to reduce their federal income tax liability. And then we will move to Priscilla, providing a brief overview of the impact of WOTC on Virginia employers and job seekers, with a focus on high-performing employers in the Northern Virginia area who've taken advantage of this credit.
All right. Thank you very much, Deborah, for that kind and very flattering introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our program to you this morning. We're not there physically, but we're there spiritually. Bad weather, and we do apologize for not being able to make it in person this morning. With that said, we'd like to just extend thank you to David Heim, Seema Jain, thank you so much for putting this together and getting us to this point. Deb Stopak, thank you very much for all your patience and getting us to this point as well. We are honored to be here this morning again in spirit to present our programs to your region. With that said, I am Philip Wentworth. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Claris Solutions, and I'm joined by my peer, Teresina Maxwell, who does serve as our Chief Operating Officer at Claris. She's the real talent in this presentation. Teresina is one of our nation's foremost thought leaders in the area of work opportunity tax credits. As Deborah mentioned in the introduction, Teresina comes to Claris with about 8 years of experience at Ernst & Young, where she did help manage the tax and incentive area for that organization. So as we move through the presentation and we get into the question and answer the panel discussion towards the end, please feel free to leverage Teresina and also Priscilla as resources. There won't be many more times in your lifetime that you'll have access to two WOTC experts like you will today. Okay. So with that said, we did want to step through very quickly a presentation that we put together just to articulate some of our solutions and specifically walk through the partnership that we do have with SkillSource today. Again, thank you very much for having us. Again, we're not there physically, but we are there spiritually with you guys. It is great to be here. Some faces with the name. We've got Brent Johnson over at the far left, who is our fearless leader. Teresina Maxwell is our WOTC expert. You'll get to meet her in just a couple minutes. Blake Bowman is our client of success, VP of client success, and then myself off to the far right. So when we talk about WOTC, we really like to talk about the concept of turning folks into WOTC heroes. And we created this concept of WOTC heroes about 2 years ago when we onboarded a staffing firm in Columbus, Ohio. And there was a lot of misinformation about the WOTC program. There's a lot of misinformation on how to execute and manage the program. And we really worked hands-on with this CFO. And over the course of about 6 to 7 months, we converted him into kind of a WOTC novice into a WOTC expert. And he went into a board meeting and he started giving updates about the WOTC program. And this staffing firm was getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax credits at that time. And the board and the upper management really kind of dubbed him as their hero, their WOTC hero. And so the program just kind of took off from there. And so what we like to do when we talk to people for the first time is educate them on the program, get them excited about it for sure. But over time, we really like to convert people into WOTC heroes. And that's really the fun part that we enjoy about our jobs. And once Teresina jumps on the phone, you'll be able to hear the passion and also the expertise. So when we create heroes, we really have two types of heroes that we're trying to create here with SkillSource. The first one is converting their case managers into WOTC heroes. We really want them to be liaisons between the program and the folks, the job seekers, and the clients that are coming into their work centers every day. So the partnership that we have with SkillSource, we are simply working with the case managers to pre-conditionally certify job seekers that are coming through the work center. And what that means is we want every person that comes into the job center to fill out one of our WOTC questionnaires. And that enables us to look at that individual to determine based on their background and how they completed the questionnaire, are they eligible and can they be certified for the WOTC program? And so if they are, we are going to issue every individual that completes the questionnaire and we deem them to be eligible, we will certify them preconditionally and actually email that individual a letter, a document that they can take to a job interview that tells the employer that they are preconditionally certified for the WOTC program. And so we think that this is going to make folks that are preconditionally certified for WOTC more attractive to employers because they do come with potentially tax credits if they're hired. So the process very quickly for the preconditional certification program is that Claris and SkillSource are going to work together to screen as many job seekers that come into the work center in 2017 as we can. Once we screen them, the burden really falls on us to pre-certify them. And then we're going to send them a letter if they are pre-certified, just giving them that added documentation so that when they do go and interface with an employer, whether it's at a job fair or a one-on-one interview, that they've got the documentation to say, hey, potential employer, I could come with some tax credits. There's a added bonus to hiring me. We do want to work with case managers and SkillSource to place folks that are looking for jobs, whether they are pre-conditionally certified for WOTC or not. Our goal is to get people into the workforce, and we hope that this program does that. And then after that, we are going to work with employers in Northern Virginia to help them capture tax credits. So we do anticipate this year of screening more than 25,000 job seekers in 2017. We do anticipate more than 10,000 job seekers to be preconditionally certified in 2017. Those are very conservative estimates. We hope that those numbers are a lot better by the time we get to December 31st. But those are some bogeys and some milestones that we put in place that we're going to manage between now and the end of the year. The other type of hero that we'd like to convert is you. You know, very simply, the employers that are looking to hire people throughout the remainder part of this year. We want to work with and help every employer that's in Northern Virginia capture tax credits. The process for capturing tax credits is pretty easy. We've got two options. You can hire a SkillSource WOTC eligible job seeker that has been preconditionally certified. That's the first step. On the back end, if you do need help capturing your tax credits, if you do hire a preconditionally certified person from that SkillSource pool, we would love to work with you and your organization to help you capture that. You don't necessarily have to work with Claris. You certainly can file the paperwork on your own, but if you need any assistance or help, just know that you've got someone in your corner that's willing to help capture those tax credits. The second option is you don't have to wait until you hire a SkillSource preconditionally certified job seeker. We can actually work with you offline and help set up a program where we're screening all of the people that are filling out applications and all the people that you're onboarding, okay? So you don't have to wait until a preconditional certified person shows up. You can actually start working with us today if you'd like. That process just includes us working with you and integrating a process into your current recruiting and onboarding processes that allow us to screen every new hire that you're onboarding. So again, we believe in creating WOTC heroes. We believe in educating people and getting them very excited about the program. But that's how we plan on creating two heroes in Northern Virginia this year. So the reasons for WOTC, and ladies and gentlemen, if you do decide to work with us, there might be a cape and a mask involved. So we take the WOTC Hero campaign and program very seriously, and we would love to ship you a cape and a mask just to prove that you have become a WOTC Hero. But we want to help employers in Northern Virginia become WOTC heroes. We want to help you capture tax credits. The overall goal of the program is to get folks into the workforce. And by doing so, the government has created a program, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, to give employers like yourselves a financial stipend or benefit for hiring folks from certain target pools. And when you receive the tax credits go to reduce or eliminate your federal income tax liability. And so the way that we convert folks to being a WOTC hero is we first start with an understanding of the program. We want to show you how that can drive employment. We want to talk to you a little bit about the economics associated with the program. And then we want to talk about how we move most of our clients from a WOTC 1.0, a basic understanding, to really a WOTC 2.0, where you're becoming an expert. You're working with Teresina and her team on optimizing the program, and you really are looked at within your organization as a WOTC hero. So again, if you're sitting there and you're learning about WOTC for the first time, you're probably wondering, what this has to do with me. Well, it's about hiring people from certain target pools. And if you do, you get a tax credit, and that credit can go to reduce or eliminate your federal tax liability. In the process of rolling this program out, we have seen that our clients, that we have been able to improve cash flow by up to 40%. So this program, it's very easy to administer. It has a lot of public good associated with it, but it can have a dramatic impact on your bottom line. Not only are you getting great people to work for the first time potentially, but you're also changing the dynamics of your cash flow. And we're going to get into some of those scenarios in just a minute. So folks that are new to WOTC, we refer to it as WOTC, but it is an acronym for the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program. This program has been around since 1996. In fact, President Carter back in, I think, 1978 came up with the first version of the WOTC program. So this overall concept has been in our tax code for the better part of 35, 40 years. But again, the whole intent is to give employers a financial incentive to seek and hire individuals that have been considered disadvantaged. This program is available to employers of all sizes. It doesn't matter what county you reside in, how big you are, what industry you're in. If you pay federal income tax, you are eligible to participate. In 2012, our practice here at Clarus really got kick-started when the Department of Labor and the IRS allowed us to, and everybody, to screen electronically. Before 2012, you would literally have to take the new employee and come actually take them to your state's workforce commission to get them certified on site in many states. And so when we were able to screen electronically, that really changed the economics and the logistics of the program. And as Deborah mentioned in the introduction, the WOTC program has been extended through 2019. So we are looking to work with SkillSource through the end of 2019 and hopefully beyond if the program does get extended. So these are the target pools associated with the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program. And so there are 9 categories for 2017, and we're going to run through this really quickly. Sorry, Teresina, because we are running out of time. But you'll see the target groups off to the left, and the maximum allowable credits on the right. That's real money. And if you're hiring any kind of volume, whether it's 5 or 500 people, these tax credits add up very quickly. And again, the economics associated with the program, this can have a profound impact on your bottom line. During the panel discussion at the end of the presentation, we will probably revisit the target groups. This is where most people want to spend a lot of time. But we did just very quickly want to show this to you this morning and just show you the tax credits that are allowed per target group. When it comes to WOTC and kind of the myths that we hear from our clients, so we just don't hire those types of people. Well, you do, and you'd be pretty amazed at the numbers of folks that are being eligible and being hired by our clients on a daily basis. This is all very good. A lot of people don't come into your organization and articulate that they're on food stamps or another part of another target pool. But you'd be amazed how many people you hire per year that qualify for the WOTC program. The WOTC program is tailor-made for industries that facilitate the hiring of large numbers of entry-level jobs. So don't get worried about your volume if you're hiring 5, 6, 7 people this year. Even if you're hiring 1, it always is a good idea to try to get the tax credits. The reason most people don't know about the program, the IRS might be one of the worst marketing firms in the world. A lot of large companies know about the program. 80% of the WOTC's tax credits went to companies with $250 million in revenue or more. So it is marketed to large companies. A lot of the small and medium-sized businesses around the country just don't know about it because it hasn't specifically been marketed to them. When we talk about eligibility, what we see across the board is 20 to 25% of every new hire would be eligible for the WOTC program. It doesn't matter industry or location. The average tax credit in the United States, at least for our clients, is right around $2,100. And there are just a lot of eligible folks this year in 2017. We estimate that over 35 million Americans could potentially qualify for the WOTC program. So again, if you think that you're not hiring these folks, I would just politely and professionally say that there's a better chance of you being wrong, just from what we've seen with our clients. We've already gone through a little bit of this, but when you do leverage tax incentives, you can attack and combat shrinking margins. We have seen the WOTC program be able to identify additional employee tools for our clients. We've seen them use the tax credits to eliminate and reduce kind of internal expenses like onboarding or recruitment. We have seen in the trucking industry and staffing industries that the WOTC program can improve employee retention. A lot of the folks that we're going after and pre-certifying with the WOTC program are looking to get into the workforce for the first time. And so when you have new entrants coming into a new industry, there is some loyalty that is built up because you're giving them a chance where other industries and other companies may not have given them the same opportunity. And again, we have work with clients where the WOTC program has improved cash flow by at least 40%. When we do talk to clients for the first time, they do reference that they have used WOTC previously. Many times it's before 2012, maybe it's 2009, when they had to do things paper-based, and actually the IRS would dictate a wet signature on all WOTC questionnaires. A lot's changed over time with the WOTC program. We are now able to screen electronically. That does help logistically implement the program at a more efficient pace. And so if you have done this in the past and WOTC has maybe left a bad taste in your mouth, we'd love to talk to you about how the program has changed and how we can implement a very efficient process for you. When it comes down to third parties like Claris being similar, we are WOTC focused. We have Terracina on our staff. Everyone on our staff eats, breathes, and sleeps WOTC. This is all we do. We don't do payroll. We don't do any other tax and incentive program. We are WOTC focused. We do have the flexibility to work with you and your organization to make sure that the screening and the processing is efficient and it's not burdensome to you and your recruiting staff. We do believe in ongoing communication and education, and we do have dedicated folks on our end that will work with your staff to make sure that your program is optimized. Very quickly, we are integrated with some of the nation's foremost ATSs, applicant tracking systems, and onboarding systems. That's where we integrate electronically to make sure that all of your new hires are screened appropriately. We are using the same methodology with SkillSource and SEMA. We're actually integrating our WOTC questionnaire into SkillSource's infrastructure, and that's going to help us screen job seekers in 2017 electronically. We do have this concept of moving people from WOTC 1.0, which is a basic understanding, to WOTC 2.0, and we'd love to talk to your organization about how we can do that for you. When we talk about the microeconomics of the WOTC program, you'll see just a really quick down and dirty kind of P&L off to the right there. When you talk about hiring a WOTC eligible employee, it can increase profitability by up to 80%. It does remove a lot of the onboarding and expenses associated with that hire. And at a microeconomic level, it can have a profound impact on your bottom line. When we talked about optimizing our programs for clients, there is a difference when it comes to providers. We do use an optimized program that is centered around maximizing tax credits. Off to the right, there are some success factors that we leverage and point to that helped us optimize programs for our clients. And again, not enough time today, but we'd love to talk to you about those success factors and the impact they could have on your organization. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. We really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to you about the program and the partnership that we have with SkillSource. If you have any questions, we will certainly be online to talk at the panel discussion. And if you'd like to continue the conversation after that, please feel free to reach out to myself or Terracina, and we'd love to get you some more information on our programs.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip and Terracina. We really appreciate it. Philip was giving some examples of what companies across the country have done. I'd like to give you one example of something that happened here in Northern Virginia. Several years ago, one of our fellow board members, representing a Fairfax-based technology company, noted publicly that their company achieved over $1 million in federal WOTC tax credits due to their internal efforts to hire veterans to fill critical IT positions. So that certainly is an outstanding example of how a motivated employer can utilize the federal tax credit opportunities to improve their company's finances, hiring, training, and employability. And obviously improves the local and national economy as well. So just wanted to share that, to bring that to the local level. I'd like to make one last point, if we could move to this slide, before we begin our conversation today. As you can see in our slide here, last year, the Northern Virginia SkillSource Centers hosted over 56,000 job seekers and are on track to host another 50,000 this year. A vast majority of these job seekers are likely to be eligible to receive the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act benefits and services, and comprise a number of the targeted job seekers we just learned about that are eligible for WOTC. So not only can they be custom trained for specific occupations and industries, but then the employer can hire these job seekers who can significantly reduce the federal tax liability. So what a win-win. Our efforts today have been highlighted today will ideally prepare the Northern Virginia employers to have an immediate and lasting impact on our local economy as well as the overall economy in the U.S. So this data point leads us to our discussion today on the work opportunity tax credit and how it can be expanded. But before we get into some questions for our panel members, I'd like to have Priscilla tell us more about what's happening in Virginia.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you so much for making my job actually easy in terms of promoting WOTC. Once the employers or those employer representatives do the hard work of getting these employees on board, the applications come to my office, and an outfit such as Clara Solutions has the ability from the WOTC office in my department. They can basically bulk upload large volumes of applications directly into our system. So Clara Solutions does the screening, and then the applications come to my department to be validated, and those applications can be bulk uploaded, as I mentioned. Virginia recently, actually in 2013, December of 2013, implemented an online system by which we will receive our applications. In the past, we were heavily paper oriented, and so now we're able to receive the applications electronically. I would say we're at 98% of our applications being received using our online system. I mentioned that the applications are bulk uploaded. There's also a process by which our TANF and or SNAP applications are validated real time, actually, through a connection that we have with the Department of Social Services. Those applications go directly into their database real time, come back into our system, to the Virginia Online system, and they're validated and auto-processed. We've experienced great success with that, and as you heard in the presentation, a large volume of the targeted populations are those TANF and SNAP applicants. We've actually processed and certified upwards of 78,000 TANF and or SNAP applications last year. That was the highest category. The next highest category was the veterans category. As far as highest performing industries in Northern Virginia, as indicated in the Clara Solutions SkillSource presentation, goes along with the retail industry, supermarkets, superstores, fast food restaurants, and also we see a lot of staffing agencies. So that's my contribution to this process.
Okay, thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is ask some questions of our panel members, and they may be the very questions you have on your mind. We'll ask those questions and then open it up to you in case we have some questions on your mind that we haven't yet covered. So please listen up to these questions, and then again, if there's something we haven't addressed, we're going to give time to you all to ask your questions. So my first question to the panel members is, how much work is required of an employer to apply for WOTC?
I can take that. I can take that question. The answer is very simple. It's very little work. The employer, if the employer is representing themselves, there's two forms, the Form 8850 and Form 9061. The form gets submitted to our office within 28 days of the applicant starting to work. It takes minutes. Actually, the way in which we would like to receive the applications is via our online system, and the employer would simply need to request an account to gain access to that system. Usually takes minutes, because the request comes directly to my office, actually to my email, my inbox. I review the request and approve the account in minutes, and that gives the employer access to data and to the details of those two forms directly into our system. Now, if the employer is employer represented, such as through an outfit such as Clara Solutions, Clara Solutions has the ability to bulk upload those applications. And again, real time, the process actually could take 24 hours to 48 hours to get the applications turned around.
So, Philip or Teresina, do you want to add anything else to that answer, to that question?
That was a great, Priscilla, thank you for answering that. We really don't have much to add other than we'll point back to 2012 and integration, electronically speaking, has really helped our clients efficiently process and screen for WOTC. Once we're integrated electronically, there is really no part of the program that would either disrupt or interfere with a company's normal recruiting and onboarding processes. Many times we'll be up and running with our WOTC screen and we'll be electronically integrated, and our clients will hire new HR folks or new recruiters, and they won't even know that we're there. So when it's done the right way, processing for WOTC should not interfere or create any additional burdens. And we even, like Priscilla mentioned, have the ability to be electronically integrated with the states to interface with them and exchange information with them. So this entire process, it shouldn't require any additional work whatsoever from the employer if it's done the right way.
Okay, Philip, here's a follow-up question. Is there a cost for the employer to apply?
There is no cost for the employer to apply. It's simply submitting those two forms directly into to the online system.
Okay.
And yes, and for our programs, for what it's worth, we have not been charged by any state to submit eligible people to get certified at the state workforce level. I'm sure Priscilla would vouch for that. We don't charge to process and screen. We only charge for folks that capture tax credits. That's actually how we get paid. But no, there is no upfront charge or cost to submit someone to the state workforce agencies.
Okay, the next question is, what are the potential tax credits? So I know you've somewhat defined the populations, and you gave an example of what it could look like at the macro level. Is there anything else you can tell us about that?
I think that SkillSource Clara Solutions in their presentation kind of walk through that really well. There's the potential tax credit between $1,200 and $9,600 depending on the target population.
Priscilla, Deborah, I don't know if you guys can see my screen again, but I did want to show the WOTC target pools again.
Thank you, Philip. That's great. Go ahead.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, there are 9 target groups associated with the program for this year. So those are listed on the left, and off to the right, there is a maximum allowable credit for each target pool.
If I could interject just a couple of pieces of information about the target pools. The designated community residence target pool, which actually screens out, separates out the empowerment zones. The empowerment zones for the state of Virginia are Norfolk and Portsmouth. Those that empowerment zone target group actually ended in December of 2016. However, we consider that portion of the designated community residents target group in hiatus. So what employers are encouraged to do during the hiatus period for the empowerment zone portion of that target group is to continue submitting applications until that portion of the program is turned back on. Also, the long-term unemployed target group, that's a new target group as indicated, and that was effective January 1st of 2016.
Okay, so another question, can an employer submit applications on current employees that qualify as one of the target populations? So can they already be employed and then to get the credit?
I'm sure Priscilla would have a better answer, but from our standpoint, no. The quick and dirty answer of that is no. There are some stipulations, but the quick answer is no. The WOTC program is good for absolute new employees to your organization. However, if that person has recently been hired within 28 days, then you can submit paperwork to the state for certification on that new employee. But if someone had been with you for a year or 2 years, you cannot retroactively go back and submit that person for certification for the WOTC program. It has to be an absolute new hire to your organization. So if John Smith worked for you in 2005 or 2006 and you rehired him in 2017, that individual employee could not be WOTC certified for your organization. Priscilla, I'm sure you have a better and more concrete definition than that.
Absolutely not. You said it perfectly.
Okay, this is such a follow-up question as a clarification then. The person comes on board and you get the tax credit when they're hired. Is it a one-time deal, or can you get the credit each year that they're employed with you?
They go to a different company.
Yeah, but for that company, it is not true.
That's
it's a one-time opportunity.
One-time opportunity.
Okay.
There is one exception, and that is with the TANF target group. I think it spans 2 years, but in general, it's just the one time.
Okay. And how does an employer know if their WOTC application has been accepted? I know you mentioned that you send them a notification.
That's exactly right. So if the employer is submitting the application on their own, they would data enter the application into our online system, and the system would, once they submit the application, they would receive a case number. Our system is not set up at this time to notify an employer as to when a determination is made. So the employer utilizes our system, and they can track the status of the application using one of the features in our online system. It's called the case search feature. And so daily, weekly, or bi-weekly, however the employer determines, they can go in and track the status of the application. Now, if the employer is employer represented, that process may be a little different.
I'm not supposed to ask questions just yet, but Priscilla, if I can back up to, by the way, let's go back with the SkillSource group. You mentioned that the TANF population might be eligible for the tax credit for 2 years. Would they be eligible for the full tax credit for each of those 2 years?
It's not the full tax. There's a portion that that population will take the first year, and then another portion the next year. What those numbers are, and I don't know off the top of my head what the maximum tax credit is for TANF. I believe, well, it says it's $9,000, but potentially a total of $9,000 over 2 years.
So I think we have a question right here.
Hi, thank you. Judy Cordella with Cornerstones. Just a question regarding the target groups. Are there more specific details regarding unemployment of veterans? For instance, is it 10 years past since they've been out of service, or is it a recent out of service? In addition to long-term unemployment, how long is long-term?
Great question, thanks.
So for the veterans target group, there's the general category, but then of course there's subcategories. And just Specifically, it's either, so if the veteran has a service-connected disability, they must be hired within 1 year, or they have to be unemployed for at least 6 months. Then there is the non-service connected the non-disabled service-connected veteran who could be unemployed for 6 months, at least 6 months, or at least 4 weeks. And then in addition to that veterans category, there's the SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program portion of that category as well. And they would need to have received SNAP benefits for 3 out of 15 months before being hired.
Okay, I think we have another question over here.
Good morning, Diane McBride with the Department for Blind and Vision Impaired. Can an employer submit for a tax credit if someone is part of a couple of different pools? Let's say they're registered with a Voc Rehab and they're also receiving SNAP and they could be a veteran?
Absolutely. And what happens in my office, if the application comes in with multiple target group requests, my office actually tries to optimize on the target group that's going to give the employer the highest or the best return, which would be the higher tax credit. So we'll kind of go down the list and to determine which category the applicant is better eligible for. And so let's say it comes in for Voc Rehab, and we validate that the applicant is not eligible, but there was also a TANF on the application as well. We will try to verify or validate for TANF, and if we are, we'll validate for TANF, and that would be the higher tax credit.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Is there, we have another question over here. Susan?
Yes, good morning. I'm Susan Baker with the Fairfax County EDA. And my question is, do the candidates that you screen, do they all have to be U.S. citizens?
Okay. That is a good question, Priscilla. I don't know if you already addressed that or not. They have to be people who qualify for one of those target groups, or like on government assistance or stuff like that. So they do, in order to even get a job, you have to have, as long as you're eligible to get the job, you're eligible for WOTC. So most companies are, go through the background checks or whatever to make sure that they are hiring U.S. citizens or people eligible to work in the U.S., and you can get a tax credit on them.
You all are asking some great questions, so keep it up. I think we've got one. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm Steve Jordan with the Northern Virginia Technology Council. I run a Veterans Employment Initiative. I'm intrigued by the pre-screening. I think that's a great part of the program. Do you proactively connect with the transitioning veterans, transitioning military or veterans, either through the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, or do you have connections on the base to pre-screen those pools of folks that are coming out under the formal transition program within the bases?
So I don't directly, but we do have representation through our local offices with the Virginia Employment Commission, and I have a gentleman that's actually here with the Virginia Employment Commission who is a vet rep, and so we do have people in the field that do promote the WOTC program.
Do you want to allow him to expand on that?
Actually, okay, if everybody can hear me, pretty much we have a disabled veteran outreach specialist, which the criteria for the unemployed veteran are primarily their caseload and case management. So as you get the individuals that are transitioning from Department of Veteran Services, from the various Wounded Warrior units, those individuals are briefed on what they are, and then the companies that I would refer the individuals to pretty much are made aware of the work opportunity tax credit that's available. Now, whether or not the company goes ahead and, exercises their right, that's on the individual company. But this seems like it would make it system a lot easier and would be an actual benefit to increase those numbers.
I guess my question is,
We need a microphone so that the folks on the.
are we pushing the folks, and that's disabled, but the majority are non-disabled, are we pushing them to a skill source or a place that they as individuals can come away with that letter, so when they go for a job interview, that's added to their portfolio, as opposed to just educating the employers?
Well, in that case, when we're dealing with the veterans, period, coming into the office, it is made aware to them. Every veteran, that's actually a benefit for the employer, and every veteran needs to know that as part of their toolkit to get themselves hired also. So it is an educational portion that we do.
I think Clara Solutions and Skill Source Group would probably want to speak a little bit more toward that as well, to kind of give you a better response, because I believe they do a different type of screening than myself and this gentleman does. So, Philip, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Is this around screening?
Yeah, I think I'm understanding the question. It's are we able to proactively connect with military and veterans that are transitioning out of the military? If that's the question, it's a wonderful question. We are one of the barriers today, at least from our standpoint. Priscilla, maybe you can expand on that. But one of the barriers, lack of a better term, is working with the Veterans Affairs Office. God bless them. They just there's such a huge lag when trying to certify veterans. And so we are actively working with folks that are on bases, that are currently transitioning military military active duty folks to non-active duty. So there are some programs that are in place, or at least we're trying to get in place as we speak. But we are continuing to lobby the Veterans Affairs Office to see what we can do to remove those obstacles, to give every employer and WOTC provider access to that information. We know a little bit too much about this, but there's approximately 493,000 unemployed veterans today in the United States, and by having access to that information, we could put a significant dent in the number of unemployed veterans. So it's a constant battle. It's one that we wage every day, hour by hour. But no, to answer your question directly, there's not an interface or an electronic interchange today that would allow us to work with military personnel as they are transitioning out of the armed forces.
Philip, this is David Hun with SkillSource. Can you give a 30-second overview of the services that Claris Solutions can offer to employers once a candidate has been hired and has been determined eligible for WOTC?
Sure. So what we try to do is it all starts with electronic integration. It all starts with having our clients have their new hires fill out the questionnaire. Once that takes place, it is automatically routed to our processing center in Columbus, Ohio, where Teresina and her staff look at it and scrutinize. We do use technology and algorithms to help with that. Our volume is such that we have to use technology to help. The questionnaire itself is electronic, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes for someone to fill out. They can use any electronic device that's connected to the internet, whether it's a tablet, PC, smartphone. But once Teresina and her team get their hands on it, they'll scrutinize it many times. In fact, 5 of the target pools associated with the program, there's 9 total, but 5 of them require additional documentation. And so Teresina and her staff will work with those government agencies. Many times it's the Veterans Affairs Office where they're trying to get additional documentation from the Veterans Affairs to prove to Priscilla and her staff that these folks are potentially WOTC certifiable. So once they get the documentation, they'll create a little bit of a dossier on each individual, and they'll submit it to the state workforce agency for certification. So at this point, we'll send it to Priscilla, and Priscilla and her team will look at it. If it meets their criteria, they will certify that person as WOTC eligible, and they will give us documentation since we're the provider. We'll then report back to our employer that this person is certified. And from that point, we're really managing with the employer, our client, two things: their pay rate and the hours worked. The pay rate and the hours worked help us maximize credits. That's what the credit is based upon. So every week you'll get a report from Teresina and her team that just shows you for every WOTC eligible and certified person how many tax credits they have accumulated in that payroll period. And so over time, usually every 30 to 90 days, we'll send you a report that shows exactly how many tax credits you have captured, and you can file those if you're filing quarterly estimated. You could actually take our forms that Teresina will fill out on your behalf that you can submit to the IRS, whether you're doing that quarterly or annually, and that's how the program basically works. Not 30 seconds, David, but I did my best.
Before we leave out, any follow-up questions to what he just said before I take any new questions? Okay, we have a couple follow-up questions.
Thanks. I'm Robin Jenks Vanderlip with the Virginia Department of Rehabilitation Services. Who's paying for your services, and do you have services for the employer that doesn't understand the process or the program, like a small business?
This is for Claris.
Right. So the first question is, who pays for your services, the process, the documentation for the pre-certification certificate? And the second question is there a free service for the businesses, a small business that's not familiar with the tax credit, for them to ask questions, get help filling out the forms?
Philip, did you hear the question okay?
Yes. So a couple questions I think I'm hearing is who's paying for our service, and do we have a free service for smaller businesses?
You got it.
And so who is paying for our service? Our clients are. So it is free to process and screen for WOTC. We don't charge for that. The minute that we capture tax credits on our client's behalf, that is when we invoice them. And we charge, it's percentage based on the amount of tax credits that we capture. So it's a performance-based model. If we set up the program and we do not get anybody certified, then our clients do not owe us any money. And do we have a free service? We don't have a free service, but again, we can screen and process without charging you. The minute that we capture tax credits, that's when you would receive an invoice from Claris Solutions. And I hope that answers the question.
Okay, I think we have a couple more questions as follow-up to that. So here comes some more, Philip.
My name is Nancy Spencer. I'm with Linden Resources. And Philip, you mentioned that the tax credits would be based on the wage and the hours worked. And I was wondering if there would be a minimum employment period for that person to work in order for the employer to take tax credit. So if they didn't really work out and they only worked like a week or something, is that like a minimal? I mean, I imagine that might be something very small, or maybe nothing. I don't know. And then I actually have a second question based on the screen up here, the target pool screen. I was curious, what are the empowerment zones? I know, Priscilla, you had mentioned zones that were on hiatus, but I was wondering what the zones are for Northern Virginia.
Great question. I'm sure Priscilla might have it. I'm sure she can answer the empowerment zone, but as far as the wages and the hours worked, as far as a minimum employment period, a WOTC certified employee will not start capturing tax credits until they work 120 hours for you. So if they work 118 hours and they are WOTC certified, you will not receive any tax credits. So they'll start to capture tax credits once they work 120 hours, and that typically the maximization of tax credits usually takes place around 400 to 450 hours worked. And so we work with our clients to help manage those milestones and provide you with reports on how many WOTC certified folks are approaching that 120-hour mark, just so you can manage that labor pool and know exactly who's about to get tax credits. The empowerment zones I will turn over to Priscilla and Teresina.
So the empowerment zone for the state of Virginia, there's two, which are Norfolk and Portsmouth. But there's also what we call rural renewal counties and cities, and I don't have a full list of those, but I can tell you that I know that there's Buchanan is one, Stanton, and then there's a few others. But off the top of my head, I don't have that listing for you. I'd be happy to take your information, and I can certainly email you that list, or provide it to Deb or whomever, so that we can make it available.
So there was a question around Northern Virginia. So Northern Virginia does not have any special.
Not an empowerment zone. No, there's just the Norfolk and Portsmouth for the empowerment zone. But just as a point of clarification, the designated community resident target group, as I mentioned, is twofold. It's the empowerment zone, which is on hiatus. It's not active at this point. But then there's also the rural renewal counties and cities that is still active, and that's the listing of cities and counties that I can get you a listing of. They are still available. And I'm not familiar with the area, so I'm not sure where Stanton or I think it's Abington and a couple others. I don't know if they fall within Northern Virginia or not.
No, they're southern. Too far south. All right, we had some more hands. I'd like to take some more questions.
Yeah, my name is Ganga Bathula. I'm from Global Institute of Technology, Fairfax, Virginia. The tax credit is good, but sometimes the employee's skills does not match to the employer requirements, and there is a gap. And I wanted to know, is there any credit or opportunity for training and uplifting the skills of the incumbent employee or the employee who's trying to join with you, with companies? Thanks.
I don't know of there's nothing through the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, but I believe that there are probably other government programs. I know there's the WIA, Workforce Investment Act, that may be helpful, or programs through the new WIOA process, and that's where you may be able to obtain some additional information or program to help with training. This gentleman, and I didn't remember your name.
Jeff Creeper.
Jeff, would you like to kind of talk about some of the programs that maybe your industry assists with?
My name is Jeff Prebrum. I'm a technology trainer with New Horizons, and I'm doing some work with the Northern Virginia Community College, at least on a consulting basis. And there is a fair amount of discussion about empowering people who are motivated to get better jobs. So, and you asked a very interesting question, one that I'm personally interested in, and that is working directly with employers to find out exactly how to get people trained to their specifications. So that is a discussion, but I can't get much deeper into that because I'm not in charge of it. But I am trying to influence it.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Your applicant tracking systems that were on the screen.
Excuse me, could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Helen with Fairfax County Schools, and I am in talent acquisition. In your integrated ATS systems, mine wasn't listed up there, do you have a questionnaire to see if they're WOTC certified? Or how do you track people that are new hires in a company to know whether they are or not?
Okay, so I think that's for Philip and Teresina. Did you hear the
Yes,
question?
that's great. No, I love that. I wish I was there to answer that in person. So ATSs, they are our best friends for sure. We do have a electronic questionnaire that comes with an API, and we can integrate into virtually any applicant tracking system. We do and are able to implement that very easily. It typically takes about 6 to 8 hours to implement our questionnaire into the average ATS. And so typically it really just involves our client making an introduction to their provider, their ATS. And then our technology teams get together and they integrate, and then we're off to the races.
Great question, thanks. Any other questions out there? Yes, we have another one over here.
Robin Jinks Vanderlip with the Department of Rehab Services. So a couple times you've mentioned that your clients integrate, etc. Can you tell us a little bit about what your company does and what the relationship was with SkillSource and how you would manage a client or company if they chose to work with you?
Sure. So client integration, each one is different. We really just try to set up a call with each individual client and really learn about their recruiting and how they are going to market and onboarding folks. We then decide on an integration. We did just talk about ATSs, so that is certainly where we'd like to integrate first. If someone doesn't have an ATS or an onboarding platform, we have actually purchased tablets for our clients that they can use. So when they onboard someone, they can simply give the tablet to the person that they're onboarding to fill out their I-9 and any additional onboarding paperwork. But also, it enables that new hire to fill out our questionnaire electronically so that we can get it in real time and start to process that information in real time. So every integration is different, but it all starts with that initial phone call and just kind of learning about each other to see if we're a good match for each other. And then from there, we talk about integration and some of the metrics that would surround your program just to make sure that expectations are aligned. For that, just to be, completely transparent, we do have every client sign an engagement letter. It's not a contract. It's simply just a 2-page document that just describes the services that we will provide and at the rates for which we will provide them. We don't have termination dates. We don't have effective dates. We don't believe in termination dates because if you don't feel like we're giving you the service or the credits that you deserve, we feel that you should be able to work with, that you want to work with. And to date, we've never lost a client. So that's pretty much how we onboard new clients, if that helps.
The question is, who do you generally talk to in companies? Does it tend to be the HR department or the finance department, or what type of role, who in the company is your starting point for these conversations in general?
Got it. Yeah, it's every client's different. I wish I could say that I went to one person or the other. Every client's different, but I would just say maybe the 3 positions that we work with the most. Ownership would certainly be there. They're looking, there may be a flow-through entity, an S-Corp, an LLC, and they want to look into capturing tax credits to minimize their personal income tax liabilities. Second would be finance. The larger companies, we're working with a tax manager. Some of the smaller companies, we're working with a CFO or a VP of finance. And then we do, on occasion, work with folks in HR. It doesn't matter how big or small the company is. When we're up and running and we're having a kickoff call, we typically see ownership on the call. We typically see someone from finance or the CFO's office, and we certainly see someone from HR. And HR is typically represented because we are working with them to get payroll reports. Payroll reports are where our main data comes from in the way of pay rates and hours worked. And so we typically, those 3 are typically very common when we start to roll out the programs.
Okay, thank you. We have time for a few more questions. I think we have a couple back here.
I don't think it's on. Lauren Parker with SkillSource. Just a quick clarification about the Voc Rehab targeted group. Is that just the Voc Rehab for the state agency, or is that open to other organizations serving people with disabilities?
It's open to other agencies assisting persons with disabilities.
Okay, back here.
Ann Hislop with SkillSource. Can you clarify how late in the hiring process someone could still be WOTC eligible, for example? Does it have to be before an offer letter is provided, or could it be shortly after they've gotten their offer letter, they could say, hey, by the way, I'm WOTC eligible?
It's your call. The key thing to just keep in mind is that once the applicant is hired and on board, you have the employer has 28 days to get that application to our office.
Okay, and the second question is, when should a client reveal to the employer they're WOTC eligible? Philip earlier had indicated that it should be, I think, like during the application process, but another employer had told me that they should wait till at least after maybe the first interview. If the first interview goes well, then they should reveal. Is there a time that works better one way or another?
So I don't know that I don't know that there's a right time. There may be a sensitive time for depending on the targeted population, such as the ex-felon target group. Sometimes that's a sensitive target group to kind of promote to an employer, and so it just depends on the applicant, and maybe for a lack of a better term, the feeling that they get during the application process. I don't know that there's an ultimate perfect time, but I think just depending on the target groups, especially the ex-felon target group, and the applicant doesn't necessarily have to present it. It's not.
Yeah, that's a great. Oh, sorry, Priscilla.
Yeah. Go ahead, Philip.
No, I think I just echo what Priscilla said. I don't think there's a right time. We do our clients, just from what we've seen. We have probably 50% that reveal to the employee that they're WOTC eligible, and then we have 50% that don't show that information. WOTC can be it's a great tool, obviously, and it's a great program. Some of our employers that do not reveal to their employees just feel that it's very personal, and they don't want that information to be at the employee level in their HRIS systems, and so it's kind of a confidential certification that they just don't want, it's confidential. So they feel that it's not something that they want to report back to the employee. And again, we've got 50% that do that. They tie the certification back into the employee record, and they definitely want that to be part of the employee record in the HRIS system. So I'll just echo what Priscilla said. There's probably not a good time. There's not a perfect time to reveal that information. I think it's just a personal choice that you and your company have to make as it relates to the WOTC program, whether or not you're going to reveal to the employee if they're WOTC eligible or not.
Okay, so I think there's just one more question, and we'll wrap up with this last question.
Hi, Judy Cordella again with Cornerstones. Question really towards SkillSource regarding increasing the pool of individuals that you could actually have come to you. Many of us here are with nonprofits that are support personnel working with employment. Is there a way that our organizations can get that pre-screening form and then send it to SkillSource to add to your pool so that we can then get our individuals who may not be working with SkillSource directly the certification?
David,
I think this is the microphone that doesn't work. David Hun. So Judy, our next steps after this presentation today is that we're going to load the Claris client software on every computer in every SkillSource center in the region. So that's going to be roughly, that's going to have 6 centers of which every computer that has public accessibility will have that software. So we have 2 options. One would be you could refer the customer to one of our centers, and of course this is all voluntary, so they could choose to then take the Claris software test, the 2 to 3 minute test. That would be probably the easiest and quickest way. It would require the customer, the job seeker, to come to one of our centers. We can talk as a spin-off to this conversation whether the Claris software can then be put into our community partners such as Cornerstone. So that could be a logical next step as well. It's all free. And since I have the microphone, may I ask a quick question?
Yes, you may.
And this is for Priscilla. Priscilla, there is a reference to ex-felons. Is it really intended to be former offenders, or is it really someone who has committed a felony? Could you clarify?
I can. So there's the ex-felon target group. It has a couple of levels. So the first piece of it is that the applicant has to have been convicted of a felony, and they have to have been convicted of a felony and hired within 1 year of release from incarceration or 1 year of conviction. The other component to that is the applicant could still be incarcerated, but also participating in a work release program. But the key thing is that the applicant has to have been convicted of a felony.
Okay, well with that, and given our time, I would like to say a big thank you to our panel members today for a very engaging and informative presentation, so thank you very much. Thank you SkillSource Group, Claris Solutions, and the Virginia Employment Commission for their opportunity to hear more about this opportunity. And I would like for you, as a call to action, to let other people know about it. It's a great way for companies to do both good and be rewarded for it financially. So let's all get the word out there about this, so that it is more companies take advantage of it, and more job seekers get the benefit of it. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Deb Stopak to close up.
Okay, well guys, I'd like to thank all of you, our panelists. This was we enjoyed a few challenges of our own today, but as with WOTC, we can always overcome those challenges. So, Philip Terracina, thank you very much for joining us remotely. Debbie and Priscilla, you've been fantastic. You handled it beautifully. The audience, thank you so much for your patience in joining us. I'd also like to invite you to join us again in June, on Tuesday, June 20th. We are going to be hosting our conversation on trying to improve the labor market participation rates here in Northern Virginia. So, all of this is available on our website. We are accepting registrations now for that. So thank you again, have a great day, and we hope to see you back in June. And don't ever forget, we love to see your friends as well. Thanks, bye-bye.